Gentlemen, my brother, my name is Mitchell T. Palmer. I'm going to give this another shot today. You know, I started this video, I went all the way through it a few minutes ago, and my microphone wasn't even plugged in. So hello again, brother. I'm your private grooming brand expert, Mitchell T. Palmer. I'm coming to you from the executive room here at Gentleman Barber, and I want to tell you a story about when I was a young grade school age kid. Okay, now after you roll your eyes and say, you don't have time for this grade school age story that I'm about to tell, just bear with me for a minute. It's not going to be a terribly long story, but you know, when I was in grade school, I played sports, right? I played basketball, I played baseball, and I played football. Now, I wouldn't say I was an athlete because I don't think grade schoolers can be athletes. So my simple answer is no, but I did play sports. My older brother and I, we loved sports. We watched sports together. We talked about sports. We idolized all the same sports heroes that we had as children. And the best thing in life was to spend time shooting hoops, throwing a football, throwing a baseball back and forth with my big brother Mike. Okay? My big brother Mike was extremely good at basketball. Okay? And I was okay. And I played basketball. Basketball practice was always fun, right? The smell of the gymnasium is really an easy thing to conjure up in my memory. It smelled like, well, it smelled like a gymnasium, right? And if you don't know what a gymnasium smells like, then go to a gymnasium and take a long, hard whiff, and you'll probably wish you hadn't. But you can take that advice with a grain of salt, by the way. What the point was is that I played basketball. Basketball practice was fun. I enjoyed playing basketball. Most of basketball practice was just running up and down the court, throwing a ball back and forth, laughing and joking with my friends and trying to get into that hoop that was too damn high up there for grade school age kids. Now, baseball is another sport that I really loved playing, and baseball practice was also fun. I enjoyed baseball. Mostly the practices were great because I loved baseball. I mean, I still love baseball. Baseball is the greatest sport that was ever invented and known to man, regardless of what we've done to ruin it in this country anymore with its political protests. Now, my brother and I spent hours in the backyard throwing a baseball back and forth and back and forth at our parents' house where we grew up, right? I mean, he would show me how to throw a curveball. He would show me how to throw a knuckleball. I would pitch back and forth to him, and he put up with me and my wild tempers and my wild frustrations and my wild throwing. We'd talk about everything in particular and nothing in particular. Mostly we'd talk about all the cool heroes we had in the sport of baseball. Like Kent Colby, who threw that just nut job like sidearm thing, right? You can't really see my arm. But, or Nolan Ryan, who to me to this day is still the greatest pitcher ever in the history of Major League Baseball. I mean, I've never had the chance to try and hit a 95-mile-an-hour fastball, but that guy threw that junk until he was in his 40s, 45, 46, right? Now, I love baseball practices because they were fun. It was all about baseball. Baseball and who the heroes of the day were and who the heroes that I wanted to be most like were and how they would do it, right? Baseball practice was a blast as well. Now, I may not have mentioned, but I also played football when I was in those younger years, grade school on into early days of high school. But football practice, that was another matter altogether. As much as I liked baseball or basketball practice and as much as I loved baseball practice, football practice was another matter altogether. And I absolutely, without a doubt, undeniably hated football practices. This is because it consisted of stretching, then push-ups, sit-ups, leg raisers, jumping jacks, running in place, keeping your knees high to your chest so your coach didn't accuse you of dogging it, which I still don't know what that means. That was also followed by wind sprints and laps around the entire practice field. But then came the best part, right? All that misery, all that torture, all that excruciating exercise to get conditioned. And I hated football practice because of it. But at some point after that, we'd get to scrimmage. Okay? Scrimmage, where you line up half of your team on offense and half of your team on defense. And then you simulate football games by running different plays on offense or defense. And I love to play defense. Okay, football practice, scrimmage was the best time, right? And go through all of that torturous exercise and conditioning so that I could get to scrimmage, right? You get to scrimmage, and that's where you get to hit people as hard as you can, no matter what, because that's your job. You know, you're a football player, you're a linebacker, right? You're a defensive end. You get to just tee off on people and hit them. You get to hit them really hard, and I love doing that. That was the reason I showed up to football practice and went through all that other nonsense, was to be able to hit people. You get to hit people as hard as you want. And not only do you not get in trouble for it, you get praised for it. And in a lot of cases, you get held up by your coaches as the example of how intense you could be, right? So I get to hit people for free. Well, not for free, because, I had to go through all that torturous, mundane, and physical exertion of conditioning, right? But I got to take my aggressions out. So is this story about me getting to take my aggressions out as a child? Of course that's the point, but no, it's not. Now, while practice back then in grade school age was excruciating, as I continued to play year after year, something started to happen to my little grade school age body. It started to grow. It started to enlarge. Now, some of this might be just the biological, natural process of growing up. But undeniably, the practice and the conditioning of football practice led to legs muscles developing, led to my muscles in my arms becoming defined instead of just, that arm and just kind of weak pencil looking. Anyway, muscles even in my chest and abdomen started to develop, probably even in my butt, right? But I don't know, I couldn't see my own butt. Maybe somebody could have looked to see if, you know what, never mind. That would be a bit creepy, people looking to see my butt. So I became so proud of these muscles anyway, that I finally found a secondary reason. Not only do I get to hit people as hard as I want and get praised for it, but this football practice torture had become something that led to the physical, visible evidence of my hard work. Okay? Now, I wrestled a little bit in high school, and that became even more pronounced in later years, but I want to stick with this story. I hated football practice. I hated it. I loved some of the results, right? Now, like any other child, I had friends from a wide variety of different resources. School, sports, church, the neighborhood, et al. Some of those friends kind of crossed over into different categories together. So I had some football friends that also were church friends or neighborhood friends or school friends. But the point is, one day in the summertime, a group of these neighborhood friends, and probably my brother and other people, were playing in the front yard, somebody's front yard, I don't know. It was a hot day, it was summertime, and we were playing in the water on a slip and slide. I don't know if you remember slip and slide. That shit was cool. I mean, So we were probably in somebody's front yard, the slip and slide is hooked up, and I'm waiting in line for my turn. And I can't wait to get another chance at the slip and slide, even though you slide down to the other end and eventually the plastic part of it ends and you end up, grass burning your butt and your legs and whatever else, maybe even your face, because it's all worth it, right? But I'm waiting online for my turn again, another turn on this slip and slide, and a good friend of mine at the time He comes up and he looks at me and he says, it's not fair. So I had no idea what he was talking about, and I asked him, well, what's not fair? And he said, well, it's not fair. He said, I'm fat, he told me. I've always been fat. No matter what I do, I stay fat. You do a couple of push-ups and muscles just develop all over the place. It's not fair. Now, I had no idea how to respond to this. No. It was at that time I remembered, and probably one of the very few times I did, the phrase that I started to be taught by adults, which is, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all, right? He was a good friend, and I did then and still do love him like a brother, but he pissed me off. I mean, he had no idea how hard I hated football or how hard I practiced during football. He had no idea how they tortured us. I mean, practice was a code word by grown-ups that meant, let's get a bunch of people smaller than us together and make them run around and torture them, and we'll laugh while they do it. So here he was telling me I'd done practically nothing to get rewarded for my nothingness. But still, there was that phrase in my head. If you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. So I didn't. Okay? I reached that age in childhood where childhood and the innocence and honesty of childhood started to be replaced by niceness. Right? The advice from adults to mind your tongue or tell polite little white lies. So yeah, I said nothing. I stared blankly at my non-sports playing friend, my non-football playing friend, and was probably really freaking angry. And in fact, I think if I had recently done push-ups and sit-ups, I probably would have hit him thinking it was okay, because that's what football taught me. Right? But the subject of learning to lie, to be polite, I do want to expand on that, but that's a matter for another movie, and this one has almost come to bear, right? So let's press on. So I'm sure you've got things to do, as fascinating as I am. So there I stood, 5-6 years into football practices, years of torture, workouts, training, finally seeing some other fruits of my labor, not just the part where I get to hit people, but I'm starting to see my body develop into something of a teenage body, with muscles. And here he's telling me I've done nothing to deserve it. Well, that's the point of the movie today, is we live in a world where your efforts will only ever truly be appreciated by a choice few people. Maybe your efforts will only ever be valued by one person, you. My question today is, have you done the hard work? Have you been and stayed committed? Now, while the rest of the world seems to only know the hard work that it takes to stick their hands out and demand that someone, maybe even you, owe them something for doing nothing themselves. This woke idea? Brothers, just as good things come to those that wait, and a stitch in time certainly does save 9, hard work pays off, but you've got to be willing to do the hard work. Now, hard work is rarely fun, but the results, like those from my football practices, are undeniable. Now, it's important to know the value of hard work, but it's worthless to know the value without following through with do the hard work. So, doing the hard work, not talking about the hard work, not planning the hard work, or judging someone else for having the satisfying results they've received from doing their own hard work, while claiming that it's not fair. It's not fair because they didn't do the hard work but want the same results as you. My brother, I have to thank you for watching this little short movie. My name is Mitchell T. Palmer. I'm your private grooming brand expert, coming to you from the executive room here at Gentleman Barber. And I would like to say to you before I'm done, nothing worthwhile comes without some unpleasant hard work. Now, that's a fact too many in this country seem to have forgotten. I learned this lesson long ago on the practice fields of my grade school football days. Along the way, I've forgotten the lesson once in a while, but it's always there. And it is hard when I have to get that reminder. The results will always be there too. And whether you choose to do the hard work or tear others down while they labor away, I'm suggesting don't just stand there and tell someone it's not fair. If you won't do it for yourself, it just won't get done. My brother, thank you for joining me today. I will see you next time. Now be good or don't get caught.